Hi again from the garden. It's Christina from Sunshine and Flora. If you are new to my channel, I grow cut flowers in Zone 5A in Northwest Iowa. And this morning I am out in the garden and I am planting all of my dahlia tubers, and I am so excited to be getting these in the ground. Now, last year was my first year officially selling cut flowers and my first year also growing dahlia tubers, and I absolutely loved having them for bouquets. And if you saw any of my videos from last year, you saw that I was really late on getting them planted. My dad and I were building a big pergola in the garden, and a couple of those posts were placed in the beds where my dahlias were going. So I wasn't able to plant any of my dahlia tubers until that project was complete, which was probably mid-July. And so today is June 3rd, so I am way ahead of schedule compared to last year. This is typically when I should be putting all of my tubers in the ground. So before I put any of my tubers in the ground, I just want to show you the two spots in the garden that they're going to be planted. So this is the first bed in the garden where they will be planted. I still need to pull some weeds out of this area, obviously, but this particular spot is roughly 4 feet wide and about 14 feet long. So I plan to plant 2 rows in this area, and then I will be putting in some T-posts to put some twine on them to corral them, but I don't have to do that right away. As long as I get that done before they get too tall, I should be just fine. So this is the first spot that my dahlia tubers are going. And this area is the second spot that all my tubers are going. You can see there is the pergola that we built last year. Now, all of my dahlias were over here last year, but I currently have that planted with celosia right now. I just love that pergola. I cannot wait to get that all fixed up with potted plants in a sitting area and enjoy it through the summer. That's last, of course, because I need to get all my crops in the ground first. But this is the area that my dahlia tubers were going. It gets full sun all day long and they should do amazing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure both of these areas so I know exactly how big they are, and then figure out exactly how many dahlia tubers I can fit in these 2 spots. I don't actually know the exact number of dahlia tubers that I have to plant this year, as I'm sure that happens to all of you. You know, you store a whole bunch and you open the box and maybe a couple aren't good, but then you get online and you order some, and then you order more. And pretty soon you don't know exactly how many you have. So that is what I did as well. So before I go in and count all of the tubers that I have, I'm going to measure these spots and figure out the layout and how many I can actually fit. All right, so this is about 8 feet wide. And it's about 8 feet this way too. So I roughly have an 8 by 8 foot area. Now it does curve around, so I have to take in consideration for that, but let's just call this 8 by 8 for now. Let's go measure the other spot. And this is about 3.5 feet wide. So I was guessing 4, it's more like 3.5. That will still be fine. And about 13 feet long. Okay, so I'm gonna go inside and pencil out my layout for both of these spots, and this video will pick back up when I am ready to start laying things out. All right, so after doing my measuring and penciling things out, I think I can fit about 26 dahlias in this area. I'm going to be planting 2 rows. The rows are going to be 18 inches apart, and then each dahlia plant within that row will be 12 inches apart. So that gives me 13 dahlias in each row for 26 dahlias total. Let's move over to the other spot and I'll show you my plan for that area. Now this area is roughly 8 by 8, but it does curve around at the corner, and so I'm going to have to take in consideration for that. But I think I can fit about 34 dahlias in this area. So I'm still going to do the same spacing. Each row will have 12 inches between the dahlias, and then each row spacing will actually have 18 inches between each row. So if that all lays out correctly, that'll fit 34 dahlias in this spot. Now that will not leave me a walking aisle in the middle of this bed, but I think I'll be able to reach in there okay. I don't want to sacrifice that space for a walking area. I really want to fit as many dahlias as possible in this space. So I'm crossing my fingers for 34 dahlias. So with the 26 and the 34, that gives me room for 60 dahlias total. So now it's time to open my boxes and actually see how many I have, because I'm pretty sure I have more than that. All right, here's all the boxes of dahlias. These are all of the new ones that I ordered for the year, which are mostly singles because I wanted to try to get the best variety possible. This box is all of the dahlias that I stored over winter that I grew for last year. Now this is my last priority on planting because I know some of these varieties maybe didn't work out the best as cut flowers last year. Maybe they weren't prolific bloomers, maybe they weren't super tall. But I wanted to save everything as possible anyway. So all of the ones that I ordered for this year, I tried to do a lot of research and read about them thoroughly. They should all be tall dahlias. A lot of them are also prolific bloomers, which basically means they produce a lot of flowers. And when you're growing cut flowers for market bouquets, you want as many as possible. So I really tried to pay attention to that for my ordering this year. I did not do that last year because last year was my first year. I pretty much didn't know what I was doing. I will fully admit that. So these are the priority. So first I'm going to go through these boxes and count how many I have, and then we'll see how many are in here. If I have more than 60 dahlias, which I am assuming that I do, it's okay. I have some galvanized planters I can plant some in. I can put some in pots. I can put some in my cottage garden area. It'll be fine. So I'm going to get this done, and then we'll get started planting. All right, so I'm getting all this figured out. I've sorted through all the boxes except my long field gardens, and the dirt is just coming out too much, and so I just need to look at my order and see how many I have in there. Now, when I was going through these from, say, Midwest Dahlias, for example, I did notice that I had a few substitutions, which, you know, with growing these days and ordering and the troubles with sourcing things lately, I think that's just a given that you may not always get what you want. So I'm glad that they do substitutions versus just canceling, because then I know I at least get some dahlia tubers. Okay, so the dahlia tubers that I ordered new, I have 75. Whew, so I'm gonna have to find some spots for those or try to plant things a little closer. I really don't wanna do that. But we'll see how it lays out when I get them placed. That doesn't even count the dahlias that I overwintered. So I'm going to have to find some extra spots for these dahlias. But I'm going to get the new dahlias planted first, then I will worry about the dahlias that I overwintered. And you know, I can even put, if they're the same kind, I can even put a couple single tubers in the same hole. You know, if they just have one growth point, that's going to be okay. So I may end up doing that too, say with maybe ones that I know I have a lot of, like a Cornell bronze. But we'll just get out there. I'll show you how I'm going to get these tubers in the ground, and we'll see how it goes. I should also mention I am marking all of my dahlias because I want to know exactly what variety is what. I'm using mostly these long tags. I do have some of these smaller tags, and I'm using a garden marker to mark everything. This will not fade over the summer like a Sharpie does, and so I highly recommend getting one of these. You can get them on Amazon, and then at the end of the season when you're harvesting and saving your dahlia tubers, you'll know exactly what variety it is. Okay, let's head outside. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started getting these planted. Now again, this area, the rows are going to be 18 inches apart, and each plant within the row is going to be 12 inches apart. I may fudge it a little bit to try to get a couple extra plants in, but not by much because I want to give them plenty of room to grow. This bed space has also already been fully amended with an organic garden soil by Nature's Care. It has a lot of great nutrients in it, kelp meal, worm castings, lots of great stuff to give this bed a boost, but I am going to be adding amendments to each individual dahlia tuber hole as well. Okay, so I have my tape measure out so I know how far 12 inches is apart for when I start planting these. So when you plant a dahlia tuber, you want your hole to be about 4 to 6 inches deep. I'm going to dig mine about 6 inches deep because I'm going to be adding some amendments in the hole, and that's going to raise it up. And I want to make sure that I have that tuber in the ground deep enough. So I'm going to dig my hole right here at 12 inches. I'm starting my hole line about a few inches in from the end of the bed. All right, then I'm going to add some compost in the hole, and I'm going to add a little blood meal. Blood meal is a really great source of nitrogen. I'm using the Espoma organic blood meal. We also added blood meal to our vegetable garden this year to give it a boost. And I want to give these dahlia tubers a nice boost. So these are the Midwest dahlias. They're all wrapped in paper, and then they have the soil inside. So I'm just going to shake that soil on top of my soil. And when you put your dahlia tuber in the ground, you want it to lay flat, and you want your eye facing up. So this one is pretty obvious where the eye is. Some of them might not be so obvious. So I'm going to lay it in the hole flat. My amendments are in there, and I'm going to cover it up. And then that was Night Queen, so I need to mark it with my Night Queen marker, which it says I have 4 of these. So I want to plant all those right in a row here. So again, I'm going to dig my hole about 6 inches deep, add in some compost, add in that blood meal, mix it up. Here's my tuber. Obviously that's the eye. I'm going to lay it down flat, cover it up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get all of these tubers planted. I'm going to get as many in the other area as possible, and then I'll show you what I end up with at the end. Okay, so all of my dahlia tubers are in the space in the other bed. They are in this bed. I fit exactly 24 in that bed, 36 in this bed. So I got my 60 dahlias planted, plus one extra one. I have a little clay pot over here that was, I'm setting on top of some hard compacted soil. So I got 61 dahlia tubers in the ground. And I have quite a few left over, plus the ones that I stored. So I'm gonna have to get creative and figure out where I'm gonna put the rest of these. I do have a couple planters, I have some grow bags, and I will probably plug some out in the cottage garden area, but that will have to be for another day. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the process of how I plant my dahlia tubers in the ground. And I should mention, because I don't think that I did before when I was planting these, I do not use landscape fabric when I plant my dahlia tubers. Dahlias grow better when the ground around them can breathe. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that as well. So anyway, stay tuned for a lot more gardening throughout the season. I cannot wait till this garden is in full bloom and I can start making lots and lots of bouquets, which I will show you guys too. So stay tuned. See you soon.